We on Global M, Cable TV 974. We also on Zoom. We also on Facebook and YouTube channel Transforming Lives radio show. Once again, it's a blessing, it's a privilege to join us. Welcome those of you from Grand Baham in the north, all the way down to Inagua in the south. It's a privilege. I want to say a special welcome to a number of persons joining us. One of the first persons on Zoom was a young lady all the way in Bermuda. She saw the link somewhere, and she's involved in prison ministries. And so she decided to join Colonel Stokes all the way down there in the beautiful country of Bermuda. And she said she hoped that someday she and I meet again. And I sent a message to her to share with my prison fellowship counterparts in Bermuda, wishing them well in their ministry. And so, folks, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. This is now the opportunity to have send out the link. My co-host Jackie Gardner, she not doing as well. You know, this is around the time of the birthday of a sister who passed earlier this year. And so right now, you know, she's not at her best. So you join me in praying with her, praying for her. You know, that in a time like this, we know that the Christ whom we serve will give her the strength. And so she may join us later, or she may be listening, but we continue to remember Jackie. Folks, on this program today, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974. You know, we here every Sunday, 4 to 5 on Transforming Lives. And so we're live in the studios today. We have a special guest, another international guest. I'll tell you about her later. And on this program, I just want to remind you tonight, I don't want you to beat me there. You can meet me there. That's at the Philadelphia Seventh Adventist Church, the ASI Philadelphia Redemption Gospel Campaign takes place. That's tonight. Begins at 7:15. That's where I'm going to be. And so I'm saying, see Pastor Leo Douglas, I'm hearing you on cable. Welcome, sir. Good to have you. He'll be my guest, a childhood friend who I grew up with. And his passion is like myself, men. So we met on the beach this morning and he said to me, Dave, I got to come on the program, but even more than that, I want to share my passion with men. And so I'm going to put together a program for men, broken men who have been broken, who have been hurt. We're going to have a man talk, whereas men, we're going to sit in the circle and feel free. In this case, I think no women allowed. And we're going to be guided by Pastor Leo, and we're going to just talk, men, express and share ourselves. I'm looking forward to setting that up. And so as I was saying to you tonight, at the Philadelphia Seventh Adventist Church, there's a program tonight. It's called Jesus the Chain Breaker. And as you know, that's the song for this program. There's power in Jesus to break every chain. We truly believe that only Christ can break chain, not programs. And after 20 years of working in prison ministries, I've seen people go through program and return back to program. But once they surrender and give their hearts to Christ, then we have seen the difference. And so I just want to remind you tonight at the Philadelphia Church, don't meet me there. You want to beat me there. 7:15, Evangelist Elder Kevin Sterling, sharing on Jesus the Chain Breaker. On this program, if you're new, and I see a hand here, but we don't take any questions now. But I just want to say, we always begin this program with what we call Moments with Christ. On the program, Transforming Lives, we don't believe in sharing a denomination. We don't believe in sharing your church nor my church. We believe in lifting up Jesus Christ, whom salvation is found in him and him alone. All the way down there in North America, Dr. L.B. McMillan, talk to us for these 5 minutes about Moments with Christ. Go ahead, Doc.
Good afternoon, Dave, and the rest of the folks. The rest of the folks on this Changing Lives program. It is my privilege and honor to be with you each week and to share Jesus Christ. This afternoon, as I thought about the subject matter and what you're talking about, I'd like to just remind persons as to the reason of this 5 minutes on this program. This program is geared to produce good results and changes and rehabilitation and a new focus for individuals and families and persons. But why it is important to know that Jesus Christ is involved, it's because whatever change, whatever rehabilitation, whatever transformation, or even the lack of rehabilitation and transformation, if it is not grounded in Christ, it is not eternal. And that is sometimes what some people miss. And we base this philosophy on the words of Jesus himself. He says, what would it profit an individual if they gain any transformation, any rehabilitation, anything, and get whatever they want on this earth and then lose their soul? It isn't worth it. Yes. In other words, Jesus Christ has to be paramount, the foundation and the substance and the continuance of anything changing, rehabilitation, or what have you, because that makes that eternal. Other than that, it will be destroyed when this earth is destroyed. Yes. And therefore, we would not begin any program at any given time without reminding persons of the importance of that connection to Jesus Christ. Yes, you may get changes, you may get some things outside of Christ, but when you pass in death, it ought to be a sleep from which Jesus will wake you up and continue the transformation, the rehabilitation, and on for eternity for his glory. So whatever you hear today, when you listen and decide, include Jesus Christ in your decision to be with him so that he can fulfill his purpose in your life for eternity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. I too join you in acknowledging that a true transformation takes place through Christ, who alone gives us eternal life, because we could get everything and lose our only soul. And the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So I endorse what Dr. Macmillan says. And I'm sure many of you, just like him, like myself, we agree that at the end of the day, when this life was ended and finished, the only thing that would matter is eternal life. And so, folks, I just want to say to you, yesterday, on this weekend, we had a prison conference call, and under the same name, Transforming Lives. It was the chaplaincy, Bahamas Department of Chaplaincy, Caregivers Conference. Number of speakers were there, shared on a number of topics. Quite a number of persons attended the conference and listened to the various speakers, got the training, got the information in terms of helping with prison ministries, and listened to some of the new initiatives that are about to take place. And I met this young lady in Freeport while we went to Freeport earlier this year to establish a branch of the chaplaincy department, because as you know, Freeport being the second city has the second most number of offenders who are incarcerated. We call them residents at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. And so they were looking at some programs. The commissioner made the announcement along with the deputy commissioner, the Commissioner Don Clare, and Deputy Commissioner Bernadette Murray. They shared a number of initiatives that they're going to put in place for persons after, when they're at like 2 years, then they would be able to be transferred to Freeport, work, live there, and complete their time there. And also they're looking at putting in a video conferencing for persons who are incarcerated in Freeport, so that their family members do not have to pay the expense of traveling all the way to Nassau to visit their loved ones. But I met this young lady, attorney Anishka Missick, and she shared, and they invited her here for the conference that was held this weekend. And I must admit, the Lord really moved, because she brought persons to tears yesterday as she shared her story. She shared her journey. and also her passion for the work. And so she's going to share a little from the legal perspective. Then I'm going to have another gentleman who was incarcerated for crime he didn't commit, but he still served the time, and he lived through it all to tell the story. And he will share later. But this young lady, when she revealed who was a father, I was moved. And I think, Dr. Mack, you will probably be able to identify also with a father, because her father was a gentleman. They call him, I think, preacher man role. Now, what was so amazing with me with this gentleman, I can recall many, many years ago, a 16-year-old boy walking through Baintown. There was this street meeting. The preacher at that time was Ara Preacher Man Roll at the church right there on Blue Hill Road. It began to rain. And I see this gentleman, so he praying for the rain to stop. And I can remember us, some of us, we laugh. We just thought that was crazy. Man, praying, asking the Lord to hold up the rain. But nevertheless, the rain didn't come down and the street meeting continued. And so I want to introduce to you my guest. She spoke at the conference yesterday, and she's going to continue to share. Attorney, a former prosecutor, but she's speaking in a personal capacity. Anishka Missick. We also want to welcome a husband and a daughter in studio here with us. And we welcome them to Nassau one more time. It's a pleasure to be here. Mistress Missick, continue the story, the journey that you shared, and how you brought persons to tears yesterday. Welcome, Attorney Anishka Missick.
Thank you. It is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I thank you for inviting me here, Brother Williams. I want to first and foremost, as with anything, give thanks and praise to God because, yes, I'm an attorney, but first and foremost, I consider myself a godly attorney, wanting to live a life that is pleasing to God, and as scripture would say, we have to work as unto God. So even in my profession, I take keen care and pay keen attention to how I assess matters, how I look at matters, and that is done with integrity, because that is important. Yesterday is indicated, you started off by talking about me being a former prosecutor. Yes, I was a former prosecutor. Just as a backdrop, the Office of the Attorney General, where I'm still employed, it used to be pre-2017 one office where you had a criminal section, and then you had what is largely considered the civil section. Now, the civil section comprises of a number of branches. For example, you have a marine section, you have litigation section, whatever you could think about that the government might be involved in at all levels and all sectors. That is what the civil section deals with. But as of 2017, once the Constitution Amendment Act of 2017 came into play, what it did was created an independent office. So out of the Attorney General's office, where it was once fused having both a civil and a criminal side, you now have the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, which is a separate office pursuant to Article 78A of the Constitution Amendment Act 2017. And then, of course, you still have what people would ordinarily hear, the Office of the Attorney General. And we still pretty much do the same things that we did before, only that the offices are now separated pursuant to the Constitution Amendment of 2017. So before that, before the changes were made, I was with the, in the criminal section as a prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor for about 10 years. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the work of a prosecutor. Prosecutors are considered ministers of justice, so we're called to not win at all costs. That's what you say. And what that means, for example, I was sharing with one of my friends in studio just a second ago. If, for example, you have a defendant who comes before the court and it comes to your attention that there is some evidence that might exclude that person, albeit you had all these evidence and led before that makes you feel that this is in fact the person, but by some happenstance, something comes to your attention that this person may possibly be exonerated upon that evidence, then as a prosecutor and as a minister of justice, you ought to disclose that to the other side. It's about integrity. Justice is about integrity, and it's needful in all sectors, in all countries, in all democracies. It is needed. So I did prosecution for a little while, like I said, 10 years, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then, however, I relocated to Grand Bahama, where I went over to the Office of the Attorney General. And in my, I've only been there now in that section for about 2 years now. And I'm enjoying it a whole lot more. What we tend to do, the area that I particularly work in now, we deal largely with civil suits that might be lodged or made or brought against the government. And this is where the agency of the state may have done something that persons feel, okay, well, this agency of the state, for example, whether it's the police or it might be whatever government agency it is, you may feel like, oh, you know what, they did something to me that infringes upon my rights, or it goes against the law. And what you do is that person may file a civil suit within the registry of the Supreme Court. And having done that, we, as the attorneys of the Office of the Attorney General, one of us may appear and we have to obviously assess the file. One of the things I typically say again, and it hinges or underpins integrity, is that at the end of the day, as an attorney, you have to remember that it's unethical to argue something that you know is unlawful. So I always ask persons who come in to please tell me the truth. The truth is very important. We swear on oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And having done that, once that is done, we can now determine whether or not the actions they comport to the legal parameters in which the agency ought to have worked in. And if it does, of course, we have a defense that we can file on behalf of the agency or agent of the state. However, if it doesn't, then the ethical thing would be to concede. If there is not a legal position or a legal defense, then you need not waste the court's time in arguing a case. So I enjoy that a lot. I've learned a whole lot having been in the Office of the Attorney General, where I'm currently at in Grand Bahama. And just let me piggyback just a slight bit, because largely as a prosecutor, I dealt with a lot of, for examples, you may have murders, you may have armed robberies, and things like that. These are the matters that are typically dealt with in the Supreme Court. However, you may see sometimes an officer from the Attorney General, a legal officer, appear in the magistrate's court where the matter is considered to be one of a complex nature. Or, for example, it might be considered high profile, and therefore, they may ask for someone from the what used to be the prosecution's office, but which is now the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, to appear. And for a short stint before going to Grand Bahama, I also was the marshal in the coroner's court. And what my job there was, I dealt with all evidence. I led all evidence that pertained to police shootings only, okay? Because the person who typically marshals the evidence in the coroner's court is a police marshal. And obviously it would be a conflict of interest if you had the police investigating police matters or police shootings. So I was the person who dealt with that largely in more recent times. And I enjoyed that as well. I typically love law. I guess that's the long and short of it. I love the law. I love to read. I love to do my research, and I want to be right. So in order to be right, you have to do your preparation. Being right doesn't just mean that you stand on emotion. Being right means that you have to make sure that you're doing your research, you're putting in the necessary time. And once you've done that, you will know whether or not what you're saying is either right or wrong. You will also know whether or not what you're doing is either right or wrong. And it comes with us becoming knowledgeable. And of course, then the application of wisdom is also very important. So I'm not here, obviously, in that capacity on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General today, but I'm here as an attorney with the acumen and the experience, obviously, that I've garnered throughout my legal career, which includes being an officer of the attorney, a legal officer within the Office of the Attorney General. So I'm here in my personal capacity, whatever I could assist with, because I believe that, what is wisdom? Wisdom ought to be shared. Knowledge ought to be shared. So let's look at it as if we're sitting in a front room or drinking coffee or having a soda and just enjoying ourselves and sharing our knowledge. Yesterday, I had the privilege, I was invited, and you were one of the persons who sat on the panel with me when I spoke at that time on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General. That is when they had a town hall meeting for 2 days. It was an awesome event where persons such as yourself came down, and at that time the town home, the theme it was about reintegration, and I think it was about the gap. It escapes me at this point, but it's almost as if you're trying to ensure that persons who are. Could you hear me? Oh, sorry. Persons, for example, who've been incarcerated, what they are to expect when they come out of a legal officer of the Office of the Attorney General. And I shared portions. We had only about 2 minutes at that point to speak, but we shared briefly, I did, on the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, and I narrowed it on 2 particular areas. That was the expungement of records and how a person who is considered rehabilitated ought to be treated. Yesterday, however, I had the privilege of being reinvited again by Kenyatta Lewis. He is also logged on. He was one of the persons who appeared at that town hall meeting. So yesterday, I appeared at the conference and I spoke largely on the Constitution, the importance of the Constitution.
Okay, I want to say thanks. I hope, can folks hear me? I know we had a little freezing with the internet. Can someone type in the chat? Let me know if you can hear us, please. Can anybody type in the chat? Let me know if you can hear. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, someone said yes. Okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you. Joining me in studios. Okay, I see I see someone say, okay, good, excellent. Thanks very much. Joining me in studios is another powerful young lady, military person, life coach, a pastor. She spoke at the conference. She has a prison ministry in, I think it's Cali, Colombia. When I heard that, we know Cali in Colombia as the section where all of the drug people are. That's Pastor Laverne. Pastor Laverne, can you greet us and share your experience and tell the folks a little about your military experience, serving in the military, as well as your ministry? So can you just join us right now, Pastor Laverne?
I'm very excited to be here live in the audience, the speaking audience. Greetings, buenas tardes from Cali, Colombia. I am a Bahamian that has had the privilege to be asked by God to participate in a project planning. Our project planning there in Cali, Colombia is where we are making a difference with the Venezuelan people that are running away from a communist country that was once democratic. And also being in Cali, Colombia, we have the opportunity to provide care and prayer for those that are addicted to drugs and involved with other gang type activities. So here we are, Step by Step Life Coaching Center, and we have the opportunity to introduce them to Christ through love, through care, and through prayer there in that country. So let me tell you a little bit of what takes place in that particular arena. Here you have individuals that have been outcasts of society who are plagued with the consequences of being connected to a system that has no additional support, if I could say, for those individuals that have found themselves in the addictions of drug, crack cocaine, and other forms of drugs. So God has allowed the church to have boots on ground, foot on ground, and begin to recruit within the country individuals to care about their own people. You see, I believe that's the best way to change a community around, is to get community involvement, to get community love and community support, to turn ourselves from the inside out in order to ensure that our cultural community needs are met. On a lower level, how can that be done? I'll give you an example. For example, we feed about 200 people a day, and it's growing vastly. So I have implemented a program where we get community members such as the bread shop and the grocery shops and other parts of the economical marketplace to contribute to those things that are needed so that they can be a contributor to the care of their own society. So this is how, excuse me, we get to make a difference by pairing up, teaming up, and making the mission go forward.
Okay, so folks, you heard from this young lady who shared a powerful message on Friday night, and we started out talking, and you heard 5 minutes with Dr. Mark, where we started talking about how it was not just a conference, right? We talked about the fact that it was a conference where she preached a message of salvation and where she called men and women, boys and girls. And as a result of it, two of the young trainees, they actually responded. The young prison officers, they came up and they responded. And it's good that the program started with two of those young men. There were many others who responded, raised their hands, but those two took the bold step to walk up, because that's what the conference is all about. What I want to hear from you, there's a person here, I hope he's here, Captain Kenny. Captain Kenny should be here. Captain Kenny, can you unmute your mic and share with these folks your experience of a person who was wrongly sentenced to prison and you live to tell the story? Go ahead, Captain Kenny.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sorry, I'm over here on Bro Island in Lutra, walking the beach on the pink sand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on my spending my anniversary with my lovely wife. But
congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. I enjoyed the conference. I enjoyed the response. I'm still getting a lot of calls of encouragement, people asking me to speak. But I really want you guys to understand Pastor Laverne, because she's really a gift from God. When I was speaking with the blend, the morning blend, and also at the hall, she knew exactly what was going on in my mind, what I was experiencing, my anxieties and everything, and she was giving me instructions that almost kept me from having a panic attack. So I really thank God for her. I prayed for her this morning, and I look forward to staying in communication with her and doing some things. I was convicted of a crime, assault with intent to commit rape. After hearing the judge said there's no corroboration of evidence in this case to convict this man, be careful not to convict this man, I was brought guilty by a jury of 6-3. It was tough. And like I said, I had every reason to be rebellious, but when you're raised in a certain way, and you have God in you, the Holy Spirit doesn't allow you to rebel. I could have identified with Jesus Christ when he was before Pontius Pilate them and being accused, and he didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. I remember sharing with a young man the other day that he was saying, "Boy, I know you was crying when they brought you guilty." I told him, I said, "No, I didn't. I didn't say a word." But I accepted it. It wasn't easy. I went through Foxhall prison, Foxhall, I call it. Living in a 6x9 cell. Can you imagine? I'm going to jail for something you don't have to do, but then living under humane and degrading conditions. But I still found my way to share Jesus, because I always, my parents always told me that we were put on this earth to share Christ. So I got involved and started a lot of initiatives in the prison to try to bring relief to the guys' mind by sharing Christ, letting them experience some love, even though there's no love there. Like I said numerous times over the weekend that you've been raised to love and to care for people and to show love, but then you get put in an environment where there's no love, an environment where there's only hate, deceiving. You got to watch your back constantly. Use a bucket to relieve yourself in the front of men. Being searched in every cavity of your body, doing so many things that happens in there to break your mind. But then, in a moment, and just how I was remanded to prison, I was released. And one of the toughest things was coping with outside. I was released from prison, but then prison then had its work done in me. So accepting freedom again was one of the most difficult things for me. Trusting people again, loving people again, showing love. Like I said, my family called me Superman, but then Clark Kent was dying. So Superman was just a shell. But I thank God that I was able to make it through only with the help of God, my wife, my family, my church. And I say to make it through, but I'm still trying to get through. I really have a new appreciation for Christ like I've never had before. Because, this is real. And I've experienced him in my life by hearing his voice guiding me, calming me down when anxieties come, opening doors. I was released from prison July 8th, and July 19th, I was hired at the Grand Bank. I lost a job. God gave me a better one. God also gave me a company. Lost a 3-bedroom house that I only had 3 more years to pay on it. And I would have it complete. I lost that.
Wow.
God gave me a bigger house, a 4-bedroom house.
Yes.
I lost a wife, but I have another wife. I think this is the wife that God had for me. The wife that I have now is the good thing that is spoken about in Scripture. I praise God for her. My sons, even though I when they was around 12 years old, one of them had to go to psychiatry actually in the court when I was guilty in the law touch. But you all know everything that I told him then, and he's called it and vice president of the company. Son, the one I have 30, now he is. So I thank God that when we start new things like it because of things that spoke in my life the men of God, I'm expecting it to be that I can be.
So thank you, Captain King. You gotta enjoy your time. Is that the background?
Pardon me?
That's the pink sound in the background.
Yeah, that's the pink sign, Leslie.
I ain't see that pink sound.
Yeah, man, the sign pink, man.
It's still pink.
The sign still pink, man.
Wow. Somebody saying, Andrea Lennon saying, God gave you double for your trouble. And pink shirt, pink sign. Wow. You pink color. Oh, that's your lovely wife saying hello, hi.
Hi, how are you?
We all are wonderful, and you know that's a powerful story. So we don't want to disturb the honeymoon. You all enjoy the rest of your time, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Come back to Freeport.
Yes. All right, Sister Laverne, I love you.
Oh, yes, I sent you a message this morning.
We're gonna catch up with you a little later.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right.
Okay, so folks, Captain Kenny got to enjoy his honeymoon, so you can't ask any questions now. But if there are any questions, because you know we only have until 5 o'clock, that you wish to ask, I will have Captain Kenny still here. Anybody want to ask him a question? You wish to ask them? Please. Pastor Leo, I know if you're on, I know there's something you want to share about your event. You can unmute now and share also.
Well, yes. Being a retired U.S. Army soldier of 23 years in 4 combat military war zones, as far as Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Operation Just Cause, and Operation Iraq Freedom. Being a part of the Chaplain Corps has allowed me to access the hearts and conditions and some of the environments that's totally male dominant. And in that, there are some issues within certain environments that require certain care and conditions. And one of those environments has to do with the prison environment. As a chaplain, it's allowed me the ability to get in to find out what some of the answers behind the wall and be able to provide the solutions and answers to the problems. So getting the opportunity to speak with my dear brother, I understood exactly some of the things that traumatization brings as far as when you are impacted with trauma and environment, being a war veteran, being exposed to things such as vehicle impactedness of weapons, sniper shooting, bombs, those type of things. Within my career, I also developed some post-traumatic syndrome. And unfortunately, most people don't know how to deal with it. They fear it, and they can't address some of the impacts and triggers and things that happen. So getting to be with my brother in the earlier mornings of this particular program that we were on, I was able to understand some of the things that he was dealing with and what many inmates are dealing with that can limit their re-entry and their connectivity to their families and their situation. If you have a family member that is reintegrating back into your community and your family, there are some things and some pointers that if you call in, I would be able to help better explain and better give you some insight on how to manage a successful relationship so that you can go forward. So the line is now open. We are open to hear and pray and give biblical and counseling advice on how to help an inmate integrate back into the family setting, or if you have a loved one behind the walls and you're wondering what kind of trauma, what kind of things they may be plagued with and how you can best assess and assist, you can call in to us right now and we'll be glad to listen and talk about it. I'm life coach Pastor Pheonia Laverne here today to hear what you have to say, and we are available here live.
Okay, so 326-0271. If you wish to call in, 326-0271. or you can WhatsApp us at 4336917. 4336917 if you have a question. And so if you're on Zoom and you have a question right now, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Or if you wish to share maybe your experience about trauma, incarceration, you can unmute your mic right now and share in the conversation. I'll pause. If you wish to join us by Zoom. Okay, that tells us that nobody wants to ask a question. So maybe we need to go back and hear from Attorney Missick, share a little during these last few minutes so we can go back to Pastor Laverne, because there's no question. The folks just want to listen in today. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Well, only thing I listened to when Kenyatta he spoke a little. He shared how I think you also spoke about it too briefly about how he was in essence unjustly incarcerated. I think that was what he was saying. However, legally, that is something that is in the legal affairs that might be considered or frowned upon, because they would say, okay, well, a court of law has convicted you, and because a court of law has convicted you, that conviction means that you're guilty, full stop. That, however, though, we're thankful because there's no doubt, I don't think it's lost on me that there may in fact be innocent persons who are in jail, okay, or who are in prison, or persons who are wrongly convicted. We live in a real world, and all of these things and real possibilities exist. However, as indicated, according to law, if a person is convicted before a jury or by a magistrate, they're considered convicted. However, according to the law, when you talk about rehabilitation, and it was reintegration back into society, that was the theme, bridging the gap. That was the theme of the town hall meeting that escaped me a moment ago. But with regard to the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, two of the things that I wanted to point out is not only expungement of records for certain offenses committed, certain criminal offenses, where a person, they can apply, make application, particularly young offenders or those who are first-time offenders, depending on the offense, you can apply to the requisite agency and body, and you can have your records expunged. Expunged simply means to have it clean, return to the state that it was in as if you were a baby, okay? No offenses are on your record. However, it has to be understood as well, according to law, pursuant to that same Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, that if a person goes, for example, to a government agency or police station, and they seem to be treated as if they're still a criminal, even though they've spent their time, they've been considered rehabilitated, or they've done their time, they have rights. Those persons have rights, okay? They must understand, and the entities or the agencies that deal with them must understand that those persons should not be treated as if they're criminals, okay? So you can, we know sometimes in the community, we still like to stain people. Now that's a moral issue that needs to change. However, from a legal standpoint, a person who has spent their time, who is considered rehabilitated, they can go to agencies of the state and demand that they're respected, not in the shadow or in the light of them having been convicted of a crime. There's a clean slate, according to law. You get that, Brother Williams?
Yes.
Yeah. So they must understand that they have rights as well. As a matter of fact, even those, for example, who are incarcerated, they too have rights pursuant to the Constitution. At the end of the day, they're human rights. Our human rights are enshrined in the Constitution, okay? So there is still a level of humanity and dignity that is afforded or ought to be accorded to all individuals by the mere existence of you being a human. Whether you're incarcerated, whether you're free, whether you're a child, whether you're adult, you understand? You have a right to be treated humanely and not in a degrading fashion. So when, for example, I hear certain terminologies used, it certainly raises a red flag in my own hearing. I think we should not just bypass these red flags. And I invite also my colleagues to consider these same things. Don't let these words Because you hear it so much, especially if you're part of the system. You hear it so much, it becomes part and parcel, and you almost it doesn't even move you. But we have to change that. We have to change that because at the end of the day, we're dealing with real lives. And that is the reason why, and what I do, even as a prosecutor, I never looked at a file as if it was only a file. I never look at the work that I do, which pertains to real lives. If, okay, well, that's just another file, or it's just another document pertaining to a Jane Doe or Mary Sue. I recognize that we're dealing with individuals. And guess what? Those individuals could be your mother, your brother, your sister, your family. So you treat people the way that you want to be treated, because you never know if you can readily be on your own feet. And that's something about life. I remember there was a senior attorney. He would say, typically whenever he did his closing address, he would say, you know, when he was defending his clients, he would say, you could be on the same side, and it's very true. In any situation can happen right now, can change your life. And you can end up behind the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services, behind Fox Hill Prison, as you typically know it. So you have to be conscious, you have to be aware, you have to be sensitive on all sides, because I also take into consideration victims' families as well, okay? So when, for example, Pastor Laverne was speaking about the post-traumatic distress, etc., disorder, and she assisted, obviously, Kenyatta, there are a lot of persons who deal with trauma, and it affects us all in different ways. I may not have been in prison, but it affects me, whatever I may have gone through. So at the end of the day, we have to love each other, be better, try to be better, whatever tier we're in, whatever segment of society we're in, whether it's a legal fraternity, whether it's whatever it is. As believers, as persons who we spoke about the Constitution yesterday, and how our Constitution is underpinned with Christian values, not only the rule of law that pertains to the law, but also Christian values. We ought to try to love our neighbors as ourselves. You understand? Let's be a better community. Let's be a better Bahamas. And I will leave that with you. Thank you.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. Interesting topic. I just want to ask the attorney, Missick, she talking about rights. And I know a lot of individuals behind prison bars don't know their rights. How do we get to those individuals behind prison bars so they can know their rights? What steps do we need to take so a lot of them could understand their rights, even from behind prison bars? Because I think a lot of them are ignorant to the fact that they don't know their rights. So we want to be able to make sure that they know their rights. How do we go about that?
I would start by saying that there's a typical saying, there is no defense, ignorance is not no defense in the law. And I say that not in that particular context, but I'm saying that to say this. We live in an age where right now you could be on a telephone, at the tip of your hands, you have knowledge readily available. And then of course there are instances where family members visit their family in prison, right? In that instance, carry them the material to read. Whether it be the Constitution, if you go on Google right now, go on Laws of the Bahamas online, you can read, you could put in the search engine, inmates or prison, keywords, and the relevant legislation should come up. Then, of course, if you do not see something that's happening in our jurisdiction locally, we could begin to become activists and ask or demand that our legislators enact laws that will benefit us. Okay, because at the end of the day, I shared yesterday, pursuant to Article 52, where our government, the legislators, they are there to ensure that there is peace, governance, and good and order on behalf of the people of the Bahamas. So in saying that, and the fact that in the Constitution, our rights and fundamental rights and human rights are in the Constitution, we have to be knowledgeable about the fact, and I'm saying it, I'm declaring it openly, that everyone has rights. Inmates have rights. We have human rights. And we ought to be dealt with dignity, And we ought to be dealt with on the same level. It doesn't matter who you think you are in society. If it's good enough for the prime minister, then it's good enough for you. Now, no doubt certain things, the laws are in place. For example, the inmate who have committed an offense and they've gone before a tribunal, they've been found convicted, yes, they're behind bars. So their freedom is not as it would be the prime minister, of course, or me, because I'm not in prison. However, you still have a right to be treated in a fashion where you're not treated inhumanely or in a degrading fashion. That is a right. So begin to consider things, begin to go online, begin to read, and to find out, even if you don't see it here, what are other jurisdictions doing? How do they treat, or how do you think you should treat yourself? Because a lot of times people don't know how good treatment or what good treatment looks like. Maybe you may need to look at somebody else to find out, okay, well, if this is how the judges are treated, I would like to feel a little bit loved like that too. I would like to be treated like that too. At the end of the day, we're sensible enough to know that you should be treated humanely. That's the point.
Yeah, Ms. Missick, what I'm trying to find out, if I'm an inmate behind prison bars right now, if I'm an inmate behind prison bars right now in the Bahamas, how do I get information to tell me exactly what my rights is? How do I get information to me? If I'm behind prison bars right now.
I'm not sure whether or not persons are able to have telephones or those type of devices. But what I'm saying to you is, even if your family members drop off food all the time to their families, so you could drop off some literature or some type of information. It's just information. If you have device, I don't know if they have a library at the prison. If they do, there should be material there that speaks about these things. The Constitution is the first place. The Constitution is the first place. It's enshrined in the Constitution as your fundamental human rights. So even where it's not listed that, okay, you should be fed on time, the bottom line is you should be fed on time. You know that. You understand? And one of the things I shared even at the conference yesterday was that law is not that deep. The reason why it seems so deep and convoluted is because a lot of people are walking in confusion. At the end of the day, where there is true intelligence, there will be true redress. So you figure that one out. The bottom line I'm saying is there's a lot of means by which, or mediums by which people can get information to them. And I'm quite sure when they visit their family members, if the prisoners do not have a library there, or they don't have access to these things, and that's something they need to share so that their family members, and this is where the family members have to also speak, because normally in the courtroom, the lawyer speaks on behalf of the client or the defendant. But this is a time where, for example, if things are not right, then pass the information on to your family member. For example, I don't know if you have someone who's a family member who's incarcerated, but if, for example, you can call me on the side, I'm here. So, you know, we don't have to just have this conversation online. You could just call me on the side, or you may call somebody else and find out, Ms. Missick, you're a lawyer, what's happening? You know, maybe there needs to be a further assessment of what's going on. But I would say this, though. What I've seen from the chaplain division of the prison, it seems to be outstanding. It seems to be an outstanding ministry. No doubt there's always room to improve. And that's not anything, an impediment or anything to say that, or you're lacking per se, but anything there's room for improvement or advancement. But at the end of the day, I find that the chaplain division, that's how I've become connected to the chaplain division, is very instrumental in trying to connect and bridge the gap between the community agencies of the state and the inmates. And I think they're doing a remarkable job. And that's how come I came online. So if you want to call me afterwards, I would be very happy to engage in conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. Let's go back past the military experience. What parts of the learning on the way? All the drugs in this. How has the ministry been for you, Pastor Learning?
Well, thank you. The ministry extends beyond just Colombia. We are also reaching out to those avenues in Africa, South Africa, and also in the United States, where we've taken some of our chaplain experience and made it applicable to do some intervention programs on the streets, off the streets, in the correctional facilities that will try to prevent recidivism, and also to educate while our inmate family members are incarcerated. That's also a program that, as a chaplain, we are trying to create new avenues of integration that will help us to how to relate to those members. You know, people talk about drugs in Cali. People talk about drugs here in the Bahamas. I'm Bahamian by birth. People talk about drugs in the United States. Wherever you go, whatever part of the world that you go, it's the same. How can we prevent it? How can we stop our family members, our children, our grandchildren from ending up in the place of incarceration due to these types of vices? So some of that intervention program starts at home. It starts in the streets. It starts as a preventative measure from the outside before they get on the inside. So our chaplain care program here in the correctional facility of Nassau, Bahamas, we are on the go. We are revamping, we are restructuring, we are implementing new resources, new avenues, even though there is a criminal connection to that. Like the attorney said, humans are humans. And in that, the structuring through the chaplaincy program is to also provide that care base that will help facilitate a healthy environment, mentally, socially, spiritually, and psychologically, while a inmate, we like to call him here in the Bahamas, a resident. A resident has a stint of stay, and with our involvement to help make that stint of stay one that is processed smoothly. So to better answer that question, or that particular, to respond to it, is that there is no difference. Whatever country, whatever you go, drugs is drugs, crime is crime. And in that, the training interaction in that is to best understand how you can divert or assist someone from getting out of that particular connection, that particular gang, before they get in. Implementing those programs of intervention starts early. There is no individual that cannot be helped. There is no individual that there is no hope for, no matter how far they have gone. And I'm here to raise my hand. I personally take an indebtedness of care, because I have a nephew that has life in prison in the United States. And in that, my love and the care is personal. So for those who have loved ones that are incarcerated, we are available to best help you understand how you can continue a love relationship, a support relationship, a care relationship, while your family member is transitioning from the offense to freedom on the other side. And even if they don't have the extent of freedom, like my nephew, love and care and help and life is still going on behind the bars. So I hope that I have been able to implement some understanding towards the program. I think one of the things that happens is, like the gentleman was talking about, well, what can my family know about the law? And this is not a hit on you, sir, or anybody. That intervention program starts when your mama and your daddy and your grandmother tells that individual not to do the thing that is against the law. Once they have committed the offense and the law catches up with the offense and they find themselves in an incarcerated state, unfortunately, learning about the law of why you are in what you in happens through the attorneys, and it happens through other means of learning. But I think your question, if I'm wrong, you correct me, is how can I help or better assist my loved one learn how to function, or learn how to embrace the conditions and the environments. And to be honest with you, one bad apple can spoil a whole bunch. If there are any experiences that individual experience through hardship, through physical encounters, through inhumane environments. You know, I work in the Bahama prison and I work abroad. I work in Asia, I work in Panama, I work in Colombia. Let me tell you something. The Bahamas facility is really good, really good. I've been in facilities where there is no help, no nothing, no this and no that. And yet still the individual has to process their sentencing. So the best way anybody can help a loved one that's incarcerated, because you have to realize they're dealing with stress. They're dealing with a hostile, violent environment. They're dealing with fear. They're dealing with shame. They're dealing with the fact of the consequences for their actions. So there is a lot in that that produces within an individual the inability to function adequately as an inmate. So there you have some things that may occur: violence, talking back, defiancy, and other things that go against the rules. So if you have someone that's incarcerated and they are dealing with all of those stressors and they have no management of that, then you will have some incidents and there you will have some pushback. So it's across the board. So even as a soldier, excuse me, as a leader in the United States Army, you know, the best way to be a good soldier, or to be working with subordinates, is to be a good leader, is to be a role model. It's a reason why in the institutions they have good work release, or they have those that are awarded certain things for good behavior. Behavior counts, attitude counts, disposition counts when you are in a situation behind the bars. So I would encourage each and every person that's listening under the sound of my voice. Once a person has been judged, once a person has been caught, once a person has been convicted, then they are facing the judgment and the consequences for their action. There's nothing you can do to take them off. Time has been allotted. Let me put a segue in there, in a caveat. If they are found or they are claiming being innocent, there are some things and processes that they have to go through. But in that particular state, the holistic mentality is that we have a productive environment within the correctional facilities that will be conducive and productive for the healthy care and the humane treatment and the future preparation for that particular individual to go through the system, do their time, and come out effectively and productively. If along the line they are not interjected with programs, if they are not taught certain things that can alter their mind mode, or alter their heart condition, or alter their spiritual standards of morals, ethics, and those type of things, then you will find someone on a trail that leads back to the front door at which they came out of. So these are some of the things that I can give you some insight on and help you better understand. And if you really want to be helped, then become a volunteer. We just did the volunteer chaplains and caregivers conference here for the first one that's ever been held in Nassau, Bahamas. Nassau, Bahamas is on the move. We're trying, we realize there might have been some things that we could have done better, and we're trying to do it better. So please give the correctional facility through the chaplains program, give us a chance, give us a hand, allow us to be your voice, to be your heart, and a helping hand behind the walls.
Okay, so sign off again now. Share with yes, in a minute, 25 words and Pastor Laverne, then I'll sign off. Go ahead. Let's just
Yes, only that. Well, first of all, like I indicated earlier, yes, I am an attorney, but I wanted to be stated as well that I am a believer in attorney. I'm a God-fearing attorney, and I think it matters because a lot of what we see today, it seems as if we have a lack of integrity within our judicial system, within our legal system, within the justice system, and people truly need to see that justice truly works. And I just want to be one of those, and as a volunteer in that regard, to do my part, to see that justice truly works in our society. It all tears. You understand? For the victims, for the defendants, for people generally. Like I said, we need a better Bahamas, and it begins, I believe, first with us putting God first. That is very important. Our society, I don't know how we've gotten here, but we need to come out of this place. You understand? And I think it's still possible because God is in control and he's able to restore and renew and deliver. And that is my message today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final words?
Yes, I just have one thing to say in a phrase context. When I didn't have clothes, did you clothe me? When I was sick, did you come and visit me? When I was hungry, did you come and feed me? But most of all, when I was in prison, did you come and visit me? We are the last defense of our society, our community, and I would encourage each individual here within the community of Nassau, Bahamas to make a difference.
Yes.
Make a difference. Make a stand in your faith. Yes, we pray, but we watch and we do.
Yes.
If you see anything, I've said this today, if you see something, you say something.
Yes.
If you say something, then you do something.
Absolutely.
And we can stop it, we can prevent it, we can help it before they come behind the bars. But if we do not intervene or intercede in that point, then we can make a big difference. The Bahamas Chaplaincy Corps is on the rise. If you are not sure what's going on behind the walls, you better believe it. Know that Jesus Christ reigns through the Chaplain Corps, and we are there holding up the blood-stained banner to ensure first that our residents come to know Jesus Christ in a personal way as their personal savior, and two, to ensure that we fill in the gap to care for them, to love them, and to help them transition successfully back into society with the love of Jesus in their heart. Thank you for allowing me. I'm life coach, Pastor Pheonia Laverne. My email is step-by-step-life-coaching-center.com. You can go to our website, see some of the mission work that we're doing, where we're doing the hard work in the streets with the gangs, the prostitutes, the drug lords, the drug dealers. It doesn't matter. We've got it. We're doing it all over the state. And we would love to help you help my country, the Nassau Bahamas, be great again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hallelujah. Stand in agreement with that.
She's impressed with the information shared on the Zoom. She's impressed with the professionals who give their time and knowledge to help others. Someone says, to begin, where love and justice meet. Thank you, welcome, absolutely. Another person says, good afternoon, ladies. Very good information for helping the less fortunate people who are innocent. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in one more time on the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 every Sunday, 4 to 5. Special hi to my co-host, Jackie Gardner. She's messaged me, she says she's listening. So welcome, Jackie. We know you'll be back next week. You'll be talking with artists, we'll be talking with small business and some healthy products to keep us healthy. Dave Williams, Jackie Gardner on the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 every Sunday, 4 to 5. We end this program the way we always end it, by reminding you that there's nothing more important than a personal relationship with Christ. Not your church, nor my church. Not your denomination, nor my denomination. Salvation comes through Jesus Christ and Christ alone. I'm encouraging you today on behalf of Transforming Lives. Have a wonderful afternoon. We're off the air. If you wish to ask any questions to my guests who's still here, you can still talk with them through Zoom. See ya. So folks,
good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Awesome show. I wanted to ask the chaplain, as far as is it mandatory over here that those that get released be a part of a counseling or some way where their movements are tracked and there's processing back into society? Is there locally in the Bahamas?
Raj, can you answer the question again? She had to come out of the sound room. Answer the question again.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to know, once they're released from prison, is it mandatory in the Bahamas that they be a part of a program, a transitioning program, and check in with a counselor and help them be transition into society?
Okay, just to answer that question, it's not a mandatory thing. If they have additional sentencing and they are on a parole, they have to account and tap into the parole officers for accountability. But here then, this is some of the things that we're working on, which is an integration program back into the community. And we are working very diligently to help family members before the resident is released, that we'll be trying to figure out integrate them into the understanding, maybe 6 months out, where the family member starts visiting with personal business, counseling sessions, and then best prepare the family member for the loved one that's coming home, what they're thinking, what their trigger points are, how to incorporate them into things that would make their life, like at the job market and things like that. So for now, we do have contact persons and people that we can extend our care from behind the wall, like if they don't have housing environment or something that's safe or something like that, that through our contacts of volunteers, that they can have that. There are some what we call halfway houses or transitional homes that individuals can participate, be connected to, but this is the extent of some of the things that are available. But once they are in and they're getting ready to release, as of now, they're beginning to have to contact family members through a support care team, case work, that we can prevent that from happening, recidivism, them coming back because they don't have the support or the care or be able to reintegrate back into society in a successful way. I hope that's answered your question.
Very much so. And I have a question for the prosecutor. With as far as you see cases where, especially for defense and prosecution side, when you feel that a person you're
okay, let me stand by. Let me get the prosecutor, okay? Okay. Lane, so let me get her so that we can stay in the right lane. Yeah, that's not my lane.
Oh, hi, I'm here.
Yes, good day. Yes, I wanted to know, as a prosecutor, and there's some clients that you know that might be, say, if you find evidence that they're innocent, do you go ahead and still, as I guess, is it mandated that you still go ahead and try prosecute? How is that?
So
the morality of that?
I want to just reiterate that I'm not here in my capacity on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of the Director.
Okay.
I am an attorney, however, so I will answer your question based on my acumen and knowledge of prosecution, which I'm no longer in. But what was the question?
Well, if you have a case and you have to, I say, defend or somebody, you have a client and you find out your client is guilty, I guess, guilty, do you still continue with that client, or how does that work on a moral aspect?
Well,
From your point of view, how do you balance that?
Ethically, if, for example, as an attorney, someone tells you something And having told you a particular thing, you find out that they're telling you a lie, then obviously you cannot adduce evidence or give the view that that thing that you know to be a lie is in fact true. That's a simple way of dealing with it. At that point, you could now determine or now, either if it came to your attention, you now have to disclose that particular thing to the client that you represented, or if it came to both of your attention at the same time, both client and attorney, obviously it's something that needs to be addressed. But it's unethical to tell a lie. It really is. A lot of times people think, oh, lawyers should lie and lawyers lie. No, lawyers ought not lie. It's unethical. And I want to tell you with regard to defenses, contrary to many people's belief, a defense is only one that is raised in law. There are legal, which we call legal defenses. Okay? You can't just raise anything and say it's a defense. After you've done your research, you should know what it is you can defend, what you cannot defend. And that's why I went back to the first thing when I started off by saying preparation and research by an attorney is very much important. And what I also see is very important by persons at all tiers of the legal system is very important. Specific question, a lawyer where it's disclosed that something has occurred contrary to their honest belief ought not defend that and cannot put that forward before the court. Are you understanding?
Yes, I understand.
Unethical.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. I think one thing that, go ahead.
In the chat, because there are some things perhaps if you'd want to call me and I could try to answer you, where you could just probe me a little bit more on any of the questions that you have. I think Renell Stocks may want to take advantage of that too. But definitely if you have any questions, I'm open. I'm
okay,
open.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, just want to thank those of you, my guests got to go. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. It's still here. You still can see. My person is for the label.